So I said to Urban, when you get to California, I want you to make love to me. Because I did.
She was once beaten so badly she had to crawl backstage, get her wounds stitched up, then walk back out and sing like nothing had ever happened. Not because she was strong, but because if she didn't sing, she would die. Tina Turner, the woman who stood in the firelight of the stage with high heels, a blaze of wild hair, and a voice as raw as fire-scratching skin, became a symbol the world looked up to. But what the world didn't see was what lay beneath that glittering mini dress. The bruises that hadn't faded, the memories locked away in silence, and a heart once crushed to the brink of stopping. She wasn't a legend because of her voice, nor because of million-selling hits or sold-out world tours. Tina Turner became immortal because she survived. She survived a childhood of abandonment, a marriage that was pure hell with Ike Turner, the man who made her a star but nearly destroyed her, a suicide attempt, years of being forgotten, doubted, told she was too old for a comeback. And she came back. At 45, when Hollywood had already crossed her off the list of women fit to be famous. But she didn't return to apologize, to prove anything, or to forgive. She returned to live, boldly, without needing anyone to lead the way. Tina Turner didn't follow the path others laid out. She burned it down and walked through it with wounded feet. A voice that had once broken with tears, and the unshakable belief that survival is the greatest kind of victory. And if you still think rock and roll is a man's game, listen to Tina Turner again. You'll understand why she wasn't just the queen of rock. She was a volcano that could sing. Have you ever heard a Tina Turner song that left you frozen in awe? Share it in the comments. And if her journey moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got more stories to tell, ones that are never just about the music. Early life. Before the world called her Tina Turner, she was just Anna Mae Bullock, a black girl born in 1939 in Nutbush, Tennessee, where cotton fields stretched endlessly, poverty crept through every rooftop, and racial segregation was the air people breathed. Her family was neither wealthy nor happy. Her parents, Floyd and Zelma Bullock, worked on a cotton plantation, constantly fighting, often violent, and never hiding their coldness toward their children. To them, children didn't need love, just obedience. When Anna Mae was 11, her mother left home without a word. A few years later, her father disappeared too. No warnings, no goodbyes, as if the little girl had never truly existed in their hearts. Anna Mae was sent to live with her grandmother, a stern, quiet woman in Brownsville. There, she learned to survive, not through love, but by expecting nothing from anyone. In the few memories she later shared, that was the time she began to understand something vital. If you want to be held, you must first learn to hold yourself. No one taught her to love herself. No one told her she was beautiful. No one ever said, "You can do it." And perhaps that's why she made a promise to herself, that one day she'd make the whole world listen. Music came as an escape. She started singing in the choir at the local Baptist church, quickly standing out with her powerful, raw voice. But no one took it seriously. To most people, Anna Mae was just a poor black girl, a bit too wild, with no future. No one ever called her pretty. Quite the opposite. As a teenager, Anna Mae once said she felt ugly, unloved, like an outsider in the world. The only time she felt even a hint of worth was when she could dance and sing. After her grandmother died, Anna Mae moved back in with her mother in St. Louis, a place that was louder, more crowded, and more dangerous. But it was there, at 17, that she walked into a nightclub and met the man who would change her life forever, Ike Turner. She didn't know that this meeting would lead to a marriage straight out of hell, but from that moment on, Anna Mae Bullock would die, and Tina Turner would be born. Before she became the queen, she was just a girl who had never been loved. But sometimes, it's those who've never been loved who learn to love life in the fiercest way. Early career St. Louis, late 1950s. A loud city of blues and rock and roll, where musical dreams were often wrapped in cigarette smoke, dim lights, and powerful men. It was there that 17-year-old Anna Mae Bullock, fresh out of a fractured childhood, began drifting into nightclubs, drawn to live music, the sound of guitar strings, and applause that wasn't out of pity. One night, in a bar called Club Manhattan, she heard a sound like thunder. Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm. He was one of the pioneers of Southern rock and roll, respected in the scene, dangerous and magnetic. Anna Mae looked at him as if he were her way out. One day, she boldly asked to sing. Ike brushed her off, until she opened her mouth. Her voice was powerful, raspy, and full of soul, the kind of raw, unhealed sound that demanded to be heard. Shocked by her voice, Ike immediately brought her into the band, but instead of using her real name, he gave her a completely new one, Tina Turner, and he trademarked it without telling her. Ike wasn't just her musical mentor, he was a controller, and Tina, still too young, too lonely, and too desperate for recognition, didn't realize she had just signed a life sentence. From small-time gigs, the Ike and Tina Turner Revue quickly exploded into a national sensation. With blazing performances, short skirts, fierce dance moves, and Tina's explosive energy at the center, audiences went wild. Hits like "A Fool in Love," "It's Gonna Work Out Fine," then "River Deep," "Mountain High," and later "Proud Mary" turned them into one of the most famous soul rock acts of the 60s and 70s. Tina didn't just sing, she brought the weather. On stage, she was a storm, powerful, seductive, unpredictable. But behind the scenes was a cold and terrifying reality. Ike beat her, controlled the finances, forced sexual encounters, and dictated every decision. Every show ended with a physical or emotional beating. Tina began living two lives. By day, a radiant stage icon. By night, a woman trying to survive the next blow. She once said, "I learned to break perfume bottles and keep the glass hidden in my sleeve, just in case I needed to defend myself." And when the lights hit, she still smiled, still danced, still sang. No one saw anything wrong. No one knew she was falling apart. Tina Turner's early career was a cruel paradox. Her voice saved her from poverty, but also trapped her in a prison for more than a decade. And inside that gilded cage, she began nurturing the most important thing of all. One day, she would escape, not from music, but from the man who turned her fame into shackles. Career breakthrough. In 1976, Tina Turner fled from Ike Turner after an especially brutal beating in a Dallas hotel. She ran into the night. No luggage, no plan, just 36 cents in her pocket and a gas station credit card. Most people would call that an ending. But for Tina, it was the first time she truly began to live. After the divorce, she was left with nothing but the name Tina Turner, the only thing she managed to keep after a bitter legal battle. No money, no contracts, no support network. At 38, an age when most female artists were already fading out, Tina had to start over from below zero. She carried the debt Ike left behind and had to find a way to support her children. In the early years of rebuilding, she performed in small venues, casinos, lounges, low-tier TV shows. Some said she was too old, too over the top, too black. But every night she sang like it was her last show. She began practicing Buddhism, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for hours a day, not to be famous, but to stay sane. And then, the miracle happened. In 1983, Tina released a cover of Al Green's Let's Stay Together. It unexpectedly became a major hit in the UK, climbing the charts. That success convinced Capitol Records to give her a shot at a new solo album. She had only a few weeks to prepare. But what she delivered surpassed all expectations. Private Dancer, 1984. The album became a global sensation. The hit single, What's Love Got to Do With It, reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making Tina the first black female artist to top the U.S. charts at age 45. The song won 3 Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year. The album sold over 10 million copies, transforming her from a washed-up singer into a resurrected legend. From there, Tina's career felt like destiny repaying a long debt. Her next albums, Break Every Rule, 1986, Foreign Affair, 1989, were massive successes. She toured the world. The Break Every Rule World Tour included 177 shows and drew over 4 million fans, the most successful tour at the time by a female solo artist. Beyond music, she stepped into film, most notably as Auntie Entity in Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, 1985, cementing her image as a powerful, no-nonsense woman. By the late 1990s, Tina Turner had become a global cultural icon, standing alongside names like Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Cher. What made it all the more remarkable? Every bit of glory she earned came after pain. No major label made Tina Turner. No manager built her. She rebuilt herself from the ashes, with sheer will, with her voice, and with the belief that the past does not decide the future. Tina didn't just come back, she rewrote the rules. She became a living symbol of resilience, a role model for middle-aged women defying ageism, and the first black female artist to dominate rock and roll, a genre long considered the territory of white men. And every time she stepped on stage, with a spotlight shining on the face once beaten and bruised, Tina Turner didn't just sing. She declared to the world, "I'm still here, I survived, and I'm worthy." Scandals, shadows, unspoken truths. Tina Turner never chased scandal, but that didn't mean her life lacked darkness. On the contrary, it was the very silence around what she endured that made it all heavier, harsher, and more heartbreakingly real. Many stories about Tina once stirred controversy, sparked gossip, and fueled speculation. But only later did the world understand. Every rumor came from something too deep, too painful, to be easily spoken out loud. In 2007, Ike Turner died. As soon as the news broke, sensational headlines followed. Has Tina forgiven him? Did they reconcile before his death? Is she still angry? The media seemed desperate to wrap their blood-stained love story with a neat, redemptive ending, as if forgiveness would finally set Tina free. But in the documentary Tina, 2021, she ended all illusions. "I never spoke to him again," she said firmly. "Not out of hatred, but because I had let go. Forgiveness wasn't necessary. I just needed freedom." That wasn't bitterness. It was the honest price of someone who had lived in hell too long to wish for anything cleansing. She didn't need a happy ending, just never to return to the beginning. Another devastating event, buried for 20 years, was her suicide attempt in 1968 in Dallas. At that point, Tina was consumed by despair, beaten, controlled, stripped of everything, and with no one to call for help, she swallowed more than 50 Valium pills. She was rushed to the hospital, survived, and the next day, performed again as if nothing had happened. No one knew. No one asked. Years later, when she finally told the story, she didn't cry. She simply said, "I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to live like that." That one sentence shattered the old narratives around women in abusive relationships. Tina wasn't weak, but no one, not even the strongest, can endure forever without breaking down at least once. Then came the death of her son, Craig Turner, in 2018. Craig was her biological son from a relationship before Ike. He grew up amid chaos, witnessing his mother being beaten, forced to sing, locked away. As an adult, Craig rarely opened up to Tina. The distance grew with time. Later, Tina lived in Switzerland while Craig remained in California. They saw each other rarely, and then, one day, Craig took his own life. The news spread rapidly. Some tabloids cruelly asked, did Tina abandon her son? Did fame make her forget her family? Tina didn't respond. She wrote just one short message. No embellishment, no defense. "He was the most loving person I've ever known. I still don't understand it. I just hope he's found the peace he couldn't find in life." That response, like everything she ever gave the world, was raw, direct, and never asked for pity. Even when she renounced her U.S. citizenship in 2013 to officially become a Swiss citizen, the public backlash was intense. Some American fans felt betrayed, that she had turned her back on the country that built her career. But Tina simply said, "Switzerland is where I get to live as a person, not as a brand." For someone who had stood under stage lights longer than she had known family warmth, stillness might have been the rarest luxury. And when she finally found it, she owed no explanations. Another shadow, once ridiculed and doubted, became her most powerful testament to love. Her relationship with Erwin Bach, her second husband, 16 years her junior. When they first went public, many accused him of chasing money, fame, and the spotlight. But 30 years later, it was Erwin who donated a kidney to save Tina's life during her final stage kidney failure. No press release, no talk show. They quietly entered the hospital together, survived the surgery, and returned to their tree-lined home by the lake in Küsnacht, the place Tina called "my final little paradise." Tina Turner didn't respond to rumors. She didn't need to, because she knew a truth would stand, even long after the lies faded away. And if anything made her immortal, it wasn't her voice. It was how she lived, walking through every wound, without noise, without pleading, and never ever bowing her head. Personal life. Tina Turner once stood on stage before hundreds of thousands, with lights shining directly on her sweat-soaked body, her legs never stopping, and the roaring cheers thundering through the crowd. But behind the curtains, when the spotlight faded and everyone returned to their lives, she was just a woman walking back to her hotel room, alone. Tina Turner's personal life for decades was a violent contrast between her radiant public image and a private world filled with pain, waiting, and a hunger to be loved without having to trade away her freedom. Her first marriage to Ike Turner was a prison she once mistook for love. In the beginning, Ike was the one who guided her, gave her a chance, gave her the stage. The only thing that made Tina believe she deserved to exist. But that love quickly turned into possession. Ike didn't just beat her, he controlled every part of her life, forced her into sex, and stripped her of the right to choose. Tina couldn't tell anyone. In the eyes of the audience, they were the power couple of soul rock. In real life, she was the victim surviving each night. Many years later, when her memoir, Ike Tina, was published, the world learned the truth. But for her, the worst pain wasn't the bruises. It was having to live beside someone she had once loved, once trusted, and slowly learned to fear. And the cruel irony was, she still had to raise children, perform shows, and smile as if everything was fine. She once said, "I was never allowed to be weak, because if I ever collapsed, I wouldn't have been able to get up again." Tina had 4 sons, 2 biological and 2 of Ike's children whom she raised as her own. Her relationships with her children were far from easy. During the years of endless touring, living under violence and exhaustion, she couldn't be the ideal mother. After leaving Ike, she took the children with her, tried to provide for them, but wasn't always able to be there. One of her greatest lifelong sorrows was the emotional distance with her eldest son, Ike Turner. He was the one who witnessed most clearly the hellish marriage his mother lived through, and perhaps was the one most deeply scarred. In 2018, Craig died by suicide. Tina, then 78 years old, quietly scattered his ashes at sea and wrote a short, simple message. "I love you. You were my first light." She didn't cry in front of the media, didn't make a public appearance, but people said that after that day, Tina never accepted another interview again. And then, amidst all that pain, love came, a second time, in a way no one expected. In 1986, she met Erwin Bach, a German music executive 16 years younger than her. They met when he was assigned to pick her up from the airport. And that seemingly fleeting encounter became the start of a love that would last more than 35 years. At the time, many doubted them. People said he came for fame, for money, for the spotlight. But Erwin never went to the press to defend himself. He simply stayed beside her, quietly, without asking for anything, without controlling her. When Tina moved to Switzerland to live with him, it was the first time she got to live as a human being, without schedules, without contracts, without sacrifice. In 2013, when Tina's health deteriorated due to a stroke, high blood pressure, and kidney failure, Erwin Bach silently donated one of his kidneys to save her life. No press conference, no announcement. Not a single PR release. They entered the hospital like 2 ordinary people. And she lived on, 10 more years, as if that was the final reward for a woman who had already endured more than enough. In a rare conversation, when asked what true love is, Tina Turner simply smiled and answered, "It's when you don't have to hide your fear, when someone knows all your wounds and still stays." She had spent her entire life trying to find that love, but once she found it, she needed nothing else. No stage, no fame, just a small house overlooking the lake, a patient man sitting beside her, and the peace she once thought she would never have, legacy and influence. Tina Turner never called herself a legend. She didn't need a statue, didn't demand titles, didn't speak like a feminist activist, and yet she became an icon. Not an icon of fame, but of survival, of rebirth, and of quiet courage. Tina's legacy doesn't lie in how many records she sold or how many Grammys she won. It lives in the eyes of women who've been beaten, belittled, who once believed they couldn't start over, and then rose because they knew Tina had done it. On a musical level, her legacy is undeniable. Tina Turner is one of the best-selling artists of all time, with over 200 million records sold worldwide. Songs like Proud Mary, What's Love Got to Do With It, The Best, and Private Dancer aren't just hits. They've become cultural symbols, covered, remixed, and remembered as shared memories across generations. Her voice, raspy and burning with life, is unmistakable. The way she performed, never halfway, unafraid to show skin, to break down, to cry, set a new standard for generations of female artists to come. She was the first black woman to conquer the highest peaks of rock and roll, a genre long dominated by white men. She didn't fight with slogans. She stood her ground simply by showing up, by crossing the boundaries others placed on her: age, gender, race, past. In 1991, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame alongside Ike Turner. But it wasn't until 2021 that she was honored as a solo artist, a long overdue recognition that was fully deserved. Beyond music, Tina Turner left a lasting mark on popular culture. From her role as a powerful leader in Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, to the biopic What's Love Got to Do With It, 1993, based on her own memoir, her image became synonymous with resilience, intensity, and strength. That memoir, along with the 2021 documentary Tina, didn't just tell her life story. They created space for victims of abuse, of silence, of trauma to speak their truths. Her influence extended far beyond the arts. Beyoncé, Rihanna, Janet Jackson, Mary J. Blige all openly credit her as a role model. Beyoncé once bowed before Tina at the Grammys and said, "Thank you for paving the way for all of us, for women who want to be themselves on stage." Oprah Winfrey called Tina a guiding light and said, "She's the reason I believe I could rise above poverty, race, and gender." Even after stepping away from the spotlight, Tina continued to shape her legacy quietly. She became a Swiss citizen, lived a private life, but published books on spirituality, Happiness Becomes You, and spread messages of healing, self-acceptance, and freedom from social molds. No one asked her to inspire, but she did, simply by existing. And perhaps the choice to live, after once wanting to die, was the most powerful statement she ever made to the world. That a woman, even when broken, can stand up again and shine brighter than ever. Not to be admired, but to live truthfully as herself. That is Tina Turner's true legacy: unapologetic presence and power that never asked for permission. Final years. After decades of setting the stage on fire, Tina Turner quietly stepped away from the spotlight. No fanfare, no farewell tour. She didn't need a loud goodbye because deep down she knew those who truly loved her would understand. Starting in 1995, Tina settled in Küsnacht, a quiet town on the shores of Lake Zurich, Switzerland, with her second husband, Erwin Bach. They lived in a villa called Château Algonquin, surrounded by trees and a still lake that reflected the calm within her. She rarely made public appearances. Occasionally, there were a few photos, a short reflection on meditation, happiness, or gratitude. She didn't chase trends, didn't try to look younger, and felt no need to prove anything to a world that once cheered her name. Even when she made the decision to give up her U.S. citizenship in 2013 and become a Swiss citizen, she said simply, "I've done my part. Now, I just want to live as a normal person." But that peaceful life wasn't untouched by the shadows of aging and illness. In 2013, Tina suffered a stroke. Later came intestinal cancer, and eventually end-stage kidney failure. She once wrote that she had considered assisted dying, which is legal in Switzerland. But Erwin, the man who had quietly stood beside her for nearly 3 decades, donated his kidney to save her. It wasn't just a medical act. It was the ultimate expression of a love that never needed to be proven. On May 24th, 2023, Tina Turner took her last breath at her home in Küsnacht. She passed peacefully in the arms of the man she loved and without seeking pity. There was no grand funeral, no national mourning, just a wave of sorrow that rippled across the world, from artists, fans, to even those who had never heard her music but had seen themselves in her story of survival. Major newspapers ran front-page tributes. Global stars shared memories. Her songs re-entered the charts, a late but well-earned farewell. Tina Turner never asked to be understood, and perhaps that's why she was understood more deeply than anyone else. She didn't live to please. She didn't sing to be adored. She didn't exist to fit any mold of femininity, success, or beauty. She chose to live without apologizing for the past, without fearing age, and without bowing to injustice. Tina Turner was not immortal, but what she left behind is. Have you ever felt like you couldn't begin again? That your wounds were too deep, too late, too far gone? Listen to Tina Turner again. Not for entertainment, but to remember. Some people survived hell and still found a way to sing. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to join us for more journeys through real lives where music, pain, and hope are never empty words.